Here we are
Hi,
for
Moira.
our deliciously motivated mindset. How are you doing, Deb?
I'm not too bad. I'm currently in Melbourne and really looking forward to today's podcast. Very excited.
Oh, I know. I like this. This is actually, when we were realizing what we're talking about today, I thought, oh gosh, I've got so many cool things we can bring into this because we want to talk about finding balance. Finding balance.
Yes,
Balance is always here. It's just that sometimes we can't see it.
I know. And we're talking about the mindset balance, not the standing on one foot.
That's right.
Or
That's right.
well, actually, I don't know.
Although that
I
might be
could
fun.
easily talk
Could
about.
do that.
Yeah, I could easily talk about that. Yeah.
But that's a really good point. If you have a really big heavy duty problem to deal with and you're thinking there's no balance, maybe just standing on your on one foot for a while might help you see it in a different way.
Well, even just put on a pair of heels and stand on one foot in heels, male or female, child. Now, you just have to let everything go from your mind and concentrate on the one thing. There's no multitasking. I have to stand on this spot and not move and put all my weight. There you go. That's a great one. I'm going to use that.
That's it. We've told you exactly how to get balance. End the conversation today.
Okay, we'll talk about mindset balance.
Okay, let's
balance
talk
then.
about mindset balance and get a little bit serious here, as if we could get serious. What does balance?
As we both stand on one foot on our heels.
Now we're standing on one foot with our heels. Oh, now we can't talk because that's multitasking.
Because I can't do too much. That's the one.
What does mindset balance mean to you, Deb?
It's for me, it's seeing both sides.
Yeah,
it's actually in an equation of having chaos, and it's actually allowing, seeing that there are positives and negatives into things, and finding balance would be the very sum of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love how you say that. You say chaos. We don't use that so much over here in Canada. We don't talk about the chaos, but it is chaotic and chaos.
Chaos is just such a nicer word instead of going, you lose your shite, you go crazy, you go psychotic.
Crap's going on.
all that chaos just seems like, people sort of seem to accept the word chaos, like we all have different levels of chaos. You're right, chaos.
Yeah, but even when you say chaos, there's a bit of a flow to that. Hey, there's balance in chaos.
Yeah, chaos. Chaos.
Chaos.
With our both different accents.
Yes. So, for me, and I agree with you about the idea of balance being able to see the two sides. I think for me too, it's about balance is, if you think about the image that's coming to my mind is like the scales, I'm thinking about a tarot card that has the justice, in fact, has
not the scales that you stand on to see how much weight you've put on over Christmas. Not those ones.
Not those ones. The ones that have the fulcrum in the middle, and then you put too much weight on one side and it'll tip. So when we have balance, it means that we have equal attention on what we may deem as positive and what we may deem as negative or chaos, right?
Yeah.
And not label or get too hung up in either side, right? It's like there is suffering, there is pain, there is chaos, but there's also bliss and happiness and ecstasy. And so it's to me, balance is loving all of that and accepting and being through all of that.
Yeah, and I think if you try and run from one thing, that's going to chase you.
So if you're really, absolutely.
If you're really focusing on the positive, you're actually not allowing yourself to see the beauty in the chaos.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And if you're running from that chaos, that's just going to keep coming. So it's wiser just to sit and reflect right at that moment and look at it until it's balanced, so that you can see an equal amount. And I reference, a piece of fruit or an orange or even your hand that, there's both sides to everything, and it's an equal amount. Like a piece of fruit, like a banana, there's equal sides. And the hand is a great one for me that I reference, because sometimes you put your hand up to say stop. So if everyone put their hand out now and said stop, and you have a look at your hand, you can only see one side of it. You only see the ring side or the nail side. But other
the back,
people
the
can
knuckles of your
see,
hand.
other people can see the other side. So we sometimes tend to see one side, and I giggle because I see the Queen, and when the Queen waves,
the royal wave.
When she does the royal
No,
wave,
and
she
that's
does
a
both
beautiful
sides.
analogy. Yeah. Well, she gets to see front and back,
And she does it equally, and she doesn't pause on one side more than the other when you see her. She rotates, and I see her as a balanced woman. I mean, clearly infatuated with the royalty a little bit, but seeing that, and she does that. So we choose to sometimes see only the one side when other people can see the other, and just rotating that hand around can see.
I really love that. That is a beautiful analogy for how, to look at both sides. But I just wanted to circle back before we go too far away from that idea of running away from something that we don't like or something that's chaotic. Because one thing that I have noticed is that when we run away from something that we don't like, or maybe we're a bit scared of it, or we say it's too big or heavy, it gets bigger. When we run away, that thing that we don't want to just sit and breathe through keeps getting bigger. It's almost like it sticks other things to it.
Because it's a snowball coming down the hill.
Yeah.
And by the time it comes down the hill to knock you, it immobilizes you because that snowball has got bigger and bigger and faster and faster, and it has collected all the shite, the twigs, the trees, people. It's collected it as it goes down the hill and hits you for a 6.
And so to this point is that if there is a chaos shows up, or something that you don't want, something that's not your preference even. We talked about the preference idea when we talked about law of attraction in one of our other podcast episodes. But the idea of preference, so it's to allow ourselves, this is what balance is to be equally at peace while I'm viewing what is not my preference to when I'm viewing something that is my preference. Because when I say, no, I can't have that, it's not my preference, then you're resisting it, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because really all it was you could have just said, I choose to not have that, and let it flow through you in this moment. Right? And then you go on to the next moment and the next moment. But I just think that there's so many people have the propensity to run away and think that there's something wrong when it's stuff that when chaos lands, or when things are feeling a bit resistant,
I think it's all down to acknowledging and acknowledging an action. Once you see it, once you acknowledge this is what it is, or it's a pattern, or it's something, I spoke to a gentleman yesterday, and he said, I've realized it's every 3.5 years I get itchy in my job and I have to leave. He said, and I'm coming up to 3 years, 5 months. He said, I can feel it. Right. And it was only because he's actually acknowledging it, which is beautiful. So now when you acknowledge, you can change your patterns. But I think that's down to just actually acknowledging and going, okay, this is not comfortable for me. My body's going into whatever. My health's not right. I'm not sleeping. All this chaos is, heavy on me. I acknowledge this. Okay, once I've acknowledged it, now how do I work through it?
Exactly.
But until you acknowledge it and not run from it, you just have to acknowledge it. Even just acknowledging allows a shift in your heart and a presence of that. Even just settles a heck of a lot down. Just acknowledging,
really does.
Acknowledging and then taking action. But so tell me, how do you find balance in situations, Moira?
So I am very much into I love what you just said about acknowledging, because it is about really needing to take the stance of being the observer and the observed. And so when I talk about that, so I'm going to go back to your example, because I think we can all relate to something like that we look at ourselves and go, oh, look, I've got this pattern. not a pattern of overcommitting or saying
Yeah,
yes to too many
partners.
things, or or
Eating bad
eating
food, quote,
bad
quote.
foods. Yeah,
Bad food when I'm
staying up
depressed.
too late, or yeah.
Yeah.
So it can be any of those kind of things, or pattern of staying out beyond the time I said I was going to come back home, and then get stuck in traffic, and all these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of pulling that together. So the thing to me, and I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday about this, where she was telling me about her pattern and saying she was beating herself up, saying, I've got this dreadful pattern, I have to get rid of it. And it was creating,
I have to get rid of it.
I have to get rid of it. To her, is it, so she says, I'm just so behind on my healing journey because I haven't overcome or got rid of this pattern. So I sit with her and shared with her, this is what I do to answer your question. I will take a deep breath and just acknowledge it's my pattern, because I invited her into the idea that I don't believe we ever do get rid of our patterns. I don't think that's part of the healing journey. Part of it is definitely to know what they are and acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And then, and to your point, and this is, I just love how you did that, what you said there is, so, and she, what was really wonderful in this conversation, she really got it. She got, well, if I just become the observer and say, oh, look, there's that pattern again. Now it's not controlling her, right?
Just like that.
Just like that.
It actually is. That is, like, I know the word easy is just, it's easy. Stuff doesn't have to be flipping complicated.
I know.
Like, oh my gosh, what do we do to ourselves? But even say that, look, I've got all the tools I can handle and more. And I still sometimes go into chaos and go, what are you doing? Just pick a tool, resolve it. Doesn't have to be, well, what one will I pick? Just pick a freaking tool. Just pick anyone and do it.
Yeah.
But in that time, you have to acknowledge. Yeah. Acknowledge is in bright lights, pom-poms, the whole works. You've got to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that acknowledge, but you also have to accept. So you say, yes, it's there. I accept it's here. Because once you do that, then you can start taking action and saying, I've acknowledged I've got this pattern. I've acknowledged that I'm a bit overwhelmed and I've just gone and eaten a pack of chips or a box of cookies, right? But I accept it. I can't continue to just say, well, I acknowledge it, but I keep beating myself up. Like, what's wrong with me? I should know better. I have all these tools. Why couldn't I choose a tool instead of going into overeating?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you say accept, and I go, so yes, accept, and I say gratitude. I go, how did it serve me? Mm-hmm. How was that a benefit to me? How was that of value to me right now?
Yeah, what was the gift? What was the gift?
Yeah, what was the gift? What did I unpack during that time? Mm-hmm. And there's accepting it, and then there's moving on. But when you're truly grateful in your heart, you don't even see it as a complication anymore.
No.
And when the more value links you do, the more benefits, whatever you want to call it, you won't even need to see it as, oh, this is a pattern.
Yeah.
Because you actually don't see it as a pattern anymore. You don't even recognize that it's actually there because it's a nil void emotion that's not even going to run you anymore.
That's right. And that's beautiful balance right there.
I've got my erect D's now. that's the gold.
Goosebumps. That's goosebumps for anybody that doesn't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's my goosebumps. In case you wonder. Yeah. You need to listen to our other podcasts and you'll hear me talk about them, okay? But yeah, that is that you don't even see that, finding balance. And I think I go back to my mother, many, many years ago, 13 years ago, and I started working on one of the tools I learned was the DeMartini method. Mm-hmm. And I perceived my mother was controlling. And when I really dug into it, I looked at the there was a lot of aspects around it. I looked at where I did that, where mum wasn't controlling to me, the freedom she gave me, what she controlled me over. There were certain patterns and everything. But I came to true goosey gratitude of tears in my eyes, real deep, heartfelt, open heart connection that I wouldn't want my mother any other way.
Right.
My mother labeling, controlling was just the biggest gift that she could give me, one of the biggest gifts. And I saw that. And that to me was finding balance. But the funny thing that happened from there, mum would do something around people and they go, oh, gosh, your mother's controlling. And I would go, and I would look at them like they had 10 heads, and I go,
What are you
no,
talking about?
she's not. She's actually just expressing her opinion. Or mum is. No, she's just saying this. And honestly, because I'd gone so deep in the work of the real open heart goosies, then I still giggle now when mum does things and people go, oh, she's controlling you. And I still, now to this day, 13 years later, go, is she? And I really have to think of that as controlling, and I don't see it because I've done that work just on that wording, controlling.
Yeah.
But I've really found complete balance. I've probably even flipped more the other way. That I now look perplexed, and people say it, and I'm like, is she? Like, because it's not. So the thing is, I acknowledge it. It's not running me. And that's truly just seeing mum as is, mum being controlling, but also seeing where she's given me complete freedom. And freedom things that I definitely were really valuable to my life, but controlling in ways that she didn't want me to get hurt, and controlling me in ways that I don't need you to learn this lesson, Deborah, because I learned it at a young age. So let me educate you, But that's just acknowledging and moving on, just not even flipping seeing it.
Right. But because so you know what I'm feeling into as you're describing that? You and I have talked about before, one of the biggest tools that I use with myself and my clients is my own letting go formula. That's the process, the 5 steps, and we've talked about them before. Awareness and acceptance are actually 2 steps in the formula. And then the next one is action. The third step is action. And so this really ties in a lot with what we were talking about. But the piece that is embodied in my own process, and you just really captured that beautifully with sharing about your experience with your mom, because I can tell you stories about being abandoned by my mom, or having a super angry father, and being aware of the pain and suffering that I went through because of that.
Yeah.
But like you, doing this work, I do walk my talk, and I have gone through and done the deep, deep work that is required when you get to balance, really, when we become balanced. But the biggest thing that I was thinking of when you were saying that is that I actually believe that we educate people how to treat us. And we can only do that when we keep coming in, and maybe we need to get triggered enough times. Maybe you need to get triggered by a controlling parent, or a controlling partner, or a controlling manipulative teacher or mentor or something. And you can and you go through it enough times to then realize, I'm saying they can do it. And in your beautiful example, you cleared it all out. And I know that I've done this with my own parenting, my own upbringing, is that I can have siblings that will look at situations or examples of my parents or people that I've known in the past, and they'll say, oh, that person's really angry, or that person's really manipulative. And like you, I go, really? That's an interesting viewpoint. That's an interesting viewpoint. But it's because I create that sense of wholeness and balance. By me, it's an inside job. Creating that sense of balance is, I'm good. And an acknowledgement too that everybody's doing the best they can with what they know and what their resources and their own experiences are, right? Your mom was coming from a place of, I'm trying to look after this girl in the best way I can.
Well, I clearly wasn't the compared to my sister. I was very different to my sister, and I emphasize that, very different.
Very different.
She listened to her parents, and she did what they said. I listened to my parents, and then went, "Oh, is there another way? Oh, there must be a shortcut. Oh, let's just take out all this. Let's do it this way." And I did constantly get the, why are you not like your sister? And I would look at my sister and I go, God, I don't want to be like her. Like, why would I, like, why would I want to be? So that's, that's just listening to what others say. But the finding, I forgot about your letting go process. That's a great one, because it's letting go. Your process is letting go with ease.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to run you. But the moment you see that pattern, the moment you see it and you acknowledge it, that's when the true gift can start. But sometimes you have to go through a lot of pain to actually recognize that pattern, or that, till you see that. I reference the fish. I'm sure I've said it before, the fish warning.
Yes, you have. I like this one.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So you have the Nemo fish, and whenever I say Nemo, I do think of Ellen DeGeneres.
I know, you can't help it.
Doria, yeah.
That just comes together.
Yeah, that's it. So you get the Nemo fish, and the Nemo fish slaps you, and you go, "Oh, I've got a little bit of," and I'm going to reference blowing. I'm going to reference tummy. Clearly, we'll just might as well go there. We'll just go there. Just bring it all out. You eat something, and then you have the tummy ache, and you're like, "Oh," and so that's the Nemo fish.
Yeah.
And then you eat something heavier, and you get the tuna fish, and then you get the burps as well, and then you get then you get the salmon, which is even bigger, and then you get the gurgling in public and everything's going on, and you get the sweats, and then don't worry, Moira, I will pull it right back. Don't panic. I just as well I'm not looking at you, because I'd hate to think what you're thinking right now. And then you get the shark that comes along, and it really wipes you out. But then you get the whale, and the whale comes and immobilizes you.
You're not getting back up.
It takes out your house, it takes out your car, it takes out your family, it takes out your possessions. Don't get to the whale. Like acknowledge that the moment you start getting your tummy gurgling, or the burp, or whatever, the moment you get the Nemo warnings, recognize it, acknowledge it, and let it go. Because the whale will immobilize you. The whale put me in the wheelchair for 10 weeks.
Right.
I didn't see the things, and only when I was in that dark space of being in the wheelchair and humbled by the world, that I actually went, oh, there was the Nemo. Yeah. Like, where was the shark? Where was the salmon? Where was the tuna? Where was that little fish? There it was there. How did I miss that?
Something fishy here.
Yeah. Classic.
I had to say that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But even that process of the Nemo to the whale can take a year. It can take 2 years. It can take 3 months. For goodness sake, people, recognize the Nemo and clear it. And if it gets to the next stage, clear it as quick as possible.
No, and this is super, super important to balance.
Even though it's not hugely painful, just recognize it and go, oh, I can see that. I can feel that emotion. Yeah. Let's do it. Because people sit in their pain for so long, and they don't have to, but they don't have to. They just don't have to. They
don't have to. And you know, the thing that I'm listening to you, and you've shared this before. I don't use fish analogy, but I use the little, tap on your shoulder, and then it's a smack on the side of your face, and then it's a bonk on your head, and then it's a completely knock you out. Yeah. But you said that too. Your whale landing on you was you being in a wheelchair. My whale landing on me was breaking my right arm, and I'm right-handed. I fell headfirst down a set of stairs and broke my arm, and that was and it was
That's
really
the whale.
This one scared me, because it was during a time where I do like I said to you earlier, I walk my talk, unless I don't.
Unless I fall down the stairs.
No, but you see, what was really interesting was when that happened, I immediately got really panicky. I was like, oh my God, what have I ignored? And what was the tap? What was the little slap? What was the bonk on my head? And I knew. And to your point, it took 1.5 years before that landed. And I was like, you know what? Had I taken action or changed what I knew I needed to change, and I knew, but and it was really funny because every time an insight or an intuitive tap landed for me, my attitude was, yeah, I'll get to it. Yep, I don't have time right now. I'll do it. And then the accident happened, and it was like, no, you're doing it right now. And that's what the whale moment does to you. So it's like,
so your whale moment took 1.5 years. My whale moment took 2 weeks
to land.
Yeah, I went from Nemo slap to whale in 2 weeks.
Good for you. High performance.
Oh, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
You do it all the way.
But so there is no particular time frame.
No.
That I saw that Nemo when I was in the hospital and in that state. I went back and I went, where was the triggers? And I just went straight to the very first Nemo, and I went, oh my gosh! And then I went, that has just been just over 2 weeks, like it was 2 weeks, 2 days or something. And I was left with, that was too quick. How did I not pick that up? And then I'm like, because you live on a fast, you're like a mice going around those rotator things.
Yeah, the hamster
wheel. Like for that. Yeah, hamster wheel. Yeah, that's it, hamster. But that was it. But the beauty is yours took 1.5 years. Mine took 2 weeks. So there is, just want to say to the listeners, there's no time frame. Do not think.
There absolutely isn't. Yeah, don't think you can, phew, I've got through it. It's because so in fact, it would have been good if it was faster for me, because then I might have smartened up and taken action faster. But it because sometimes we become very, very resilient. And I am a very resilient type of person. I can put up with a lot of stuff. And it's almost like, it's really funny because I had a reading done by a friend of mine after, because like I said, I was quite upset with myself. It's like, oh my God, my guides are really upset with me now.
Oops.
And actually, that was the conversation I had with my friend. She said that because I am so resilient and so hard-headed in some ways, I will put up with a lot. And in order to really get that insight through, like that whale moment, it's got to be big before me. It took me out, and I recovered extremely quickly. Well, to my mind, I did.
To your mind. Yeah, well, see, my whale put me in the wheelchair, and that may not have been a whale. That may have just been the tuna.
Right.
Or the shark. But that whale that put me in that wheelchair was the whale to me.
Yeah.
But if it
made you reset and completely change, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and I've never actually thought about that, but listening to you saying that, but that whale may not have been the whale. That may have just been the next level. That may have been the 3 levels in.
Yeah, and you were present enough to it to say, this is so not balanced. What do I have to do? So really, it doesn't matter what. Doesn't matter.
That actually scares me to think that whale may not have been the whale. I've always thought it was a whale, but that may have been only 2 or 3 steps in.
Could have been, but
that whale was enough. Or
exactly. But my
enough.
point to you is, hats off to you. Well done on your part, because you didn't kind of go, okay, time in the wheelchair and continue on with the situation that was causing the unbalance, right?
Yeah. And people sometimes find it easier to sit, and this is very frank, sit in their shite and just sit there and go, poor me, poor me, poor me. And I don't want to do it. I don't know how to do it. No one's helping me. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, you've got to be ready. So doing the poor me, poor me, poor me, is not going to help you. But
No.
sometimes people just have more value of getting a lot of support from friends and family, or health professionals or something, and they're just getting a little percentage of it, and they're like, this is all I can handle. It's like, no, you can actually handle more, but you've got to be ready for more.
That's right.
But they want to sit in their space. There's that, yeah, that whale was a whale for me. There is no way I would have sat in that space. I just
Sure.
couldn't.
I want to share a story with you and with our listeners about that being ready, because I think it's really, really important. And it's important for us all to realize that we have access to that inner wisdom. So my story is many years ago. One of the therapies I and I actually still do this from time to time, is craniosacral therapy. It's a hands-on body work, actually quite energetic as well. And this client came to me. She had some kind of brain injury or genetic disposition. I can't remember what it was, but I remember I did a whole bunch of research on it just for me as a therapist to get a sense of what is this. And I was so excited because I could totally see with all the research that craniosacral was going to help her. It was actually probably going to even cure her. And so she came for her appointment, lovely woman. We start having the session, and it would probably be about halfway through, and she's lying on my massage table, and I'm doing the different manipulations. Craniosacral is a very subtle movement, energy movement, and it's basically helping your body realign and get back into its proper alignment and wake up the healer within.
Finding balance.
Exactly, very much finding balance. So halfway through the session, her eyes flew open, and she says, "Moira, stop. Take your hands off." And I immediately stopped, take my hands off, and she sat up and she said, "I just realized that the technique you're doing is going to heal me, and I don't think I'm ready to be healed." Isn't that amazing?
Oh,
Now,
I've got my erecties.
Yeah, I do too. Even still telling the story, like I said, that's almost like 15 years ago that happened. But I had so much respect for her that she intuitively knew, here it is. Here's the way I can take away this suffering and resolve my issue, but it's giving me something, and I don't think I can let go just yet.
Oh my gosh. Holy wow. That she is incredibly brave to say that.
Yeah. Isn't
I
that
think
amazing?
wow. Wonder what she's doing now.
She pops up into my awareness when we have conversations like this. I really do hope that she came and got to the place where she no longer needed it. But it was obviously, she was being cared for, she was being looked after. She didn't have to I don't think she even had to work because she wasn't medically able to keep down a job. So
that's one of the things is, we rely on the government. Well, in New Zealand and Australia, the government can fund quite a lot. They can fund counselling sessions, they can fund healing sessions.
Yeah, that's true in Canada too.
Yeah, and as much as I love that, it's also can immobilize people to just stay in that paradigm.
Because now I don't have to do anything for myself, because
I just need to turn up twice a week to my session, and it's going to heal me. But in reality, that takes more than turning up. There's exercises to be done between sessions, etc. But I do see that. Wow, what a very brave woman. Now that we're talking about her, she will have felt their energy. I pretty much guarantee she'll be reaching out to you just to say, this is who I am, if she's still alive, obviously.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and it's down to wow, just not doing it, just saying I just don't, I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready yet. But I really wanted to bring that into this conversation about finding balance, because at that point, that was her sense of balance.
Yeah.
But she also had the capacity to look at. So we've been talking about that you need to be aware of what your patterns are. and you acknowledge them, and then you can to have gratitude and take some action, right?
Yeah.
Where's your balance? So really, in all of that she did it. She acknowledged, she appreciated it, and her action was no more healing session, thank you.
Yeah. And yeah. Wow, what a brave woman.
I know. I always was so honored of that whole experience. But the other part of it was the authenticity and the integrity she had with her own self. I believe we all have that, but when we're giving responsibility, that was the other part that I was going to say earlier about the finding balance, is it's our responsibility. It's when I take responsibility for, I have this pattern, or I have this phobia, or I have this propensity to overdo or underdo, I have to take responsibility for whatever that is or is not, and then I can find my sense of center or balance, right?
Taking responsibility is such an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
We
might need to have a whole conversation on responsibility.
I'll make a note of that one. Taking responsibility, being accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's look, it is. It's yeah. I'm really floored by that woman. I'm really floored that she had the capacity to say, I'm not ready, because people just go, oh, I can't afford it, or I don't have the time, and I hear all the excuses in the world as to why they truly are not ready to be healed or want to see the other side. But for her to actually take your hands off me, I'm out. Like, I can't. That's phenomenal. Well done to her.
Absolutely.
That's a gift on its own.
Yeah. It was an amazing gift, and it was such a piece of inner awareness, and that's really what I was trying to get to share with our listeners, is that balance is found when you are really honest with what's going on internally. It's our balance. We've had these conversations before. A lot of the stuff that we are looking for is an inside job.
Yeah.
Even balance.
It's believing in yourself. Yeah, it's believing. It's having certainty in yourself that you already know what you're doing, but actually having certainty in there, but also, I'm not going to say confidence. It's actually certainty, more certainty, like I'm certain I know.
Yes.
And then speaking up is the other thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's actually interesting, because that's something I work a lot with people in my therapy is a lot about blockages at the throat chakra, because we often do not give ourselves permission to speak up and ask for what we want, or even explore it. You know, we tend to put other people's needs in. This is where we get out of balance, is because we're living into some indoctrinated way in our life and not saying, take a deep breath, and I have to find out, who am I in this? What are my patterns? What are my preferences?
Yeah. And then not only that, then it's also, where are they coming from?
Yeah.
So the moment you start unlocking that door, there's a few boxes to unpack in that room you're going into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, my dear, it feels like maybe we'll have to come back and circle back and have another conversation, because this one feels really big. It feels like there's so many more things, but I know we're kind of out of time now with today's finding balance. So I feel pretty balanced at the moment. How about you, Deb?
I'm in awe of that woman. Not often am I speechless. I'm in awe that that's phenomenal. I'm incredibly pleased she did that, and that we can also share that with people, share that story. And I will definitely use that story to talk to people about, because that's something that's a gift on its own, is that taking responsibility, speaking
Absolutely.
up.
Absolutely.
but she could see more value in staying where she was.
Yeah.
And that, but apart from that, I feel balanced today. I'm in Melbourne, and we've got we had to giggle because we've got a sunny day.
She's got sunny summer, and I've got wintry cold weather here.
And you've got
we
snow.
Had a bunch of snow.
Yeah, and I'll be doing my washing and hanging outside on the line, the clothesline.
Well, it's all about balance. You see, it is balance. We bring you both sides. Look at us. We're bringing you both sides.
Absolutely. And with the Queen's wave.
With the Queen's wave. So you get to see both sides, always looking for both sides.
Yeah, that's it.
This has been awesome, Deb. I look
Thank
forward
you, Moira.
to our
Thank
next
you,
one.
listeners.
Thank you, listeners. Yeah. Thanks, Deb. We'll be talking to you again real soon.
Thanks.